Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and you know what? Andy's here.
You just know it? You know it? Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. You know it. I know
Everybody
it.
knows
Everybody knows it. I'm here, folks.
Yeah, I'm glad you are. You probably wouldn't have if I'd have told you about today's case, honestly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a brutal one.
Just slipping that one in there at the last minute for me.
I'm surprising Andy this week with the case.
Yeah, love that.
You like that, Andy?
I love just getting hit in the face with just two black eyes. Just bam. Okay, cool. I don't want to look
It
anymore.
has nothing to do with me procrastinating on this timeline, okay?
Right? No, never.
But guys, before we get into it, I got to remind you, you can catch these episodes early and ad-free on Patreon. But you can check out our other shows here on the free network, Strange and Unexplained and Cryptic Soup with Dina and Kylie. New episodes of Cryptic Soup come out every Wednesday. Make sure you give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Cryptic Soup Pod. And give us a follow on social media at True Crime Guys, wherever you social.
Wherever you social.
Yeah.
Can we be
Wherever you scroll mindlessly,
Like I said,
give us a follow.
MySpace. We will be on MySpace again one day.
We'll be on the space,
Right.
as I like to
Our
call it.
space.
But no, today, the case of Axel Rudakubana.
Rudakubana. I will promise not to try and mess you up purposely
I
on
will
that.
promise to say Axel as much as possible.
Rudakubana.
What did you just say?
Okay, I lied.
Rudakubana. Damn it, Andy. Don't mess me up, man. This one's hard enough. And it's honestly really not that funny. Axel pled guilty to the murders of 3 girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance studio in Southport, Wales. He was said to be an introvert with a background in musical theater, but unfortunately, that's not why he was at the dance studio
Not that day.
Andy. No, not that day. But by the time he carried out these brutal murders of these 3 young girls, he was actually well known to the police. Also, anti-extremism authorities, including a program called Prevent, which we will talk quite a bit about in this episode, and a number of other public agencies. The government now says more than a few opportunities were missed to stop him from turning his dark obsessions into a reality. So today we're going to talk about what we know about his, journey to becoming this radicalized killer. Mm-hmm. And whether or not it could be prevented.
Yeah, and this is a relatively recent case, guys. This occurred just last year.
Yes.
The trial just happened. The verdict just came out in January. So I'm sure there will be more studies done. There'll be more interviews done with him once he's, now that he's in prison.
I mean, he's very forthcoming with it. He's not very remorseful, I'll tell you that. This is a brutal case.
Yeah, I'm sure he's I'm hoping he gets some more time with doctors to talk. But like I said, this is a relatively recent case, guys. So if you remember hearing about this in the news, I'm sorry.
Here we go. Roll that intro.
All right.
The thing I remember most about you is your eyes. You looked possessed, and you didn't look human. You stabbed me in the arm, and instinctively I turned, and that's when you continued to stab me in the back. All I could hear was the screams. I ran out onto the landing, and there was a group of girls huddled, and I began just screaming for the girls to get down the stairs. I was physically pushing them down the stairs to get them out of the building and get away from you. I knew I was running for my life. I remember thinking we need to get away, as you weren't going to stop. I knew from your eyes you wanted to try to kill us all. The impact this has had on me can be summed up by one word: trauma. He targeted us because we were women and girls, vulnerable and easy prey.
All right. So Axel Rudakubana, he just turned 18 in August of last year, which was just 9 days after the attack happened.
9 days after?
Yes.
Yeah.
9 days after the attack, he became an adult.
That was a big
good
problem
timing.
right there because that was
good- yeah.
it was like when it happened they couldn't he was a minor still when it
That's
happened.
right. Yeah. He was born in Cardiff to Rwandan parents. He has an older brother who was also born in the Welsh capital. A neighbor of the family stated that they were a lovely young family. The two little boys were boisterous, but not odd. You know what I mean? Not violent. And there were no problems while living there. They were a friendly couple with two little boys, and they said they could not believe what had happened.
No, of course not. You've watched this boy basically just grow up, and then he's not even an adult yet, and then you see him on the news after this kind of attack.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the most shocking things you could expect to see from your neighbor.
No doubt. And
Especially a neighbor kid.
Anytime you see someone in their life at such a young, innocent stage, and then you see what they grow to become, it's always profound.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you didn't see all the stages. You didn't see all the work that went into that person.
No.
So, yeah. But even though he was born in Cardiff, his parents later moved to Banks in Lancashire. Now, this was around 2013, and they moved to a quiet cul-de-sac area there, suburban area, middle class. At the age of 11, Axel was featured in a television advert for BBC Children in Need after being recruited through a casting agency. Now, remember, he was in theater. His parents kind of let him do. That was one of the few things they let him do. They were very, very religious.
Yeah, very strict.
Very religious. So I don't know even if his theater stuff had to be, religious based or what. But they did let him do that. And obviously they let him do this commercial.
I feel like I love
for
the fact
children
that
in need. It's like, why did he fit the bill?
I just love how it's like he fit the bill or whatever. He fit the bill for whatever they were casting at the time.
Yeah.
I just love how at some point nobody in that like office of Children in Need like saw that like audition tape or saw his performance and was like, I feel like this is actually for you. I don't think you should be there. I think you should. You want to go talk?
Yeah, exactly. Neighbors said that the family were heavily involved with the local church, and they would often hear singing from their house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you would definitely, if you're a neighbor and you just hear your neighbors randomly singing in their house, I'm sure you'd think that's probably a pretty happy family.
Absolutely. You would think so. Now, I don't know how it was when he was younger, but once he moved to Banks, he was still trying to do musical theater, and he had joined a local group there with some other kids, but he didn't really fit in well. Most of the kids said that he was very quiet, very introverted, which, as you can imagine, doesn't do well in a theater group. Most of those kids are outgoing. They're very boisterous. They're very extroverted. They're like, hey, look at me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're proud, but they're also, not afraid to let their guard down.
No, they're creative. They're open. They're ready to be vulnerable to an extent. You have to be if you're making art.
Exactly. And they said that he just didn't seem to have the attitude for it.
No.
It's weird. It just wasn't his scene, I guess.
No, and he started to become. People did describe him as basically almost kind of creepy at some points. Like he just he didn't fit in to an extent, and not just because of any kind of differences, other than the fact that he wasn't really trying to engage as much either. Like,
right.
He was just kind of standing there looking.
I'm sure he met his confrontation, right? But instead of, taking it in stride and fit in where you get in, or get in where you fit in, or whatever, he was like, well, fine. If they want to make me the villain, he's kind of like a Megamind type character, right? If they want to make me the villain, then fine.
I'll be the
and
best.
His forehead
villain.
was just as big as well.
Yeah, right.
Big
old noggin on this kid.
You can make fun of him. He's the killer. But he attended Range High School in Formby for a very short time because he was suspended in 2019 after telling Childline that he was being racially bullied and he was going to bring a knife into school to protect himself.
Okay. I mean, okay, if it's a weird thing to be suspended, or I guess you could be suspended for that, but it's also one of the things, it feels like an investigation would be more to be launched instead of that. Like, and if the bullying is so bad that you're feeling like your life is being threatened, like your physical safety, there needs to be an investigation. Like if it's that point, everybody in this situation needs to be suspended, investigated, and all this stuff.
And it may have not have been to that level. It just, maybe it offended him to that level, to where he would use violence.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because once he was allowed back to school after his suspension, he immediately returned and assaulted his bully with a hockey stick. So I mean, they said no knives.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, a hockey stick is not a knife.
That
to
was
be fair.
already on school premises.
To be fair.
You know, that was already here. You know, I didn't bring anything with me. Nothing was against the rules. But yeah, exactly. Like one of those things where it's like, this should have been more investigated. Like if this was such, that's just a weird thing for a school. We've had kids.
No doubt.
Like I know my kids are in school right now, and just thinking about the fact of like, if there was any kind of bullying that was brought to the attention of the school that required a student to be like, I'm feeling so scared, I have to bring a knife to school to protect myself. Like you would feel like there would be like a full-blown investigation.
There would, Andy, if he didn't have such a track record of causing issues everywhere he went.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? If it, you know, what they say, if everyone you meet's an asshole, you might be.
Yeah, to an
asshole.
extent. And yeah.
You might be.
They did start to, they kind of knew some of his obsessions already, and they knew that he was already
and we'll go through some of that. He had quite a track record still leading up to this. I mean, he went to 3 different schools just in high school. Mm-hmm. You know, most people are only there for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
but Axel also attended 2 specialist schools. I can't imagine why he bounced around so much, Andy. I don't know why no one wanted him. But he attended the Acorn School in Lancashire and Pressfields High School and Specialist College in Southport. And the teachers at both schools were, let's say, put it lightly, concerned about his behavior.
Like
heavily concerned.
Kind of teacher who's sitting with their back to the corner of the classroom, just looking both ways,
Probably afraid of him. Yeah. So much so that he was referred to the government anti-extremism program PREVENT, which I mentioned in the intro, actually 3 times.
Oh my God.
He was recommended to PREVENT before the murders, mainly due, to his fixation on violence. Extreme violence, genocide.
Mm-hmm. He's
racially motivated genocide, even.
Yeah, he starts watching cartoons. He starts watching like cartoons about like anti-religious, extremism and violence. And he's becoming very open about some of the things he's like interested in and what he's obsessed with. And the fact that he's referred there 3 times to this agency, like you get referred one time and you can be interviewed. Maybe you can pass, lie it off, pass it off. 3 times, that's got to be at least a little bit more of like, okay, maybe we need a second opinion in here.
I feel like they were kind of nitpicking him a little bit, honestly. Like they were saying, well, technically he doesn't meet the criteria because we try to prevent extreme terrorists who have a plot. They have a reason. They have a motivation, right? They have a cause.
Or there's somebody who might have the resources to do something. Like this, they're looking at this. They're looking at this as a child. They're like, this child doesn't have the resources to commit mass casualties or anything like that.
But what I'm saying is that they're only focused on people who are doing it for a reason, who have an objective, because I guess they think they're not equipped to deal with someone that is doing it for any other psychological reason. I don't know. So, but for whatever reason, he didn't fit the bill. But I mean, let's just go over some things in his life, right? This obviously all this came out after the arrest, but apparently they found out he was making a deadly poison in his room that he probably heard about from Breaking Bad, right? Thanks a lot, Vince Gilligan. But ricin. Yes, I mentioned Breaking Bad again, Andy. I'm sorry. Second time in 2 episodes. It's just relevant.
I know. And I love how that showed up on that one show. And then it showed up a few other times on different popular TV shows.
Yes.
They're like, oh, there's this one chemical that you can make from like a bean and it can kill like so many people. It's like, what kind of bean are we talking about?
Right? You're talking about ricin. I hear you.
I know.
I hear you, Walter White. But they also found a PDF file entitled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al-Qaeda Training Manual.
Oh, I love how it is so like well titled. This is the official Al-Qaeda training manual.
They're very organized.
Yeah. You know what? Their PowerPoint skills are on point. Like, you know what?
But apparently it's illegal to own this.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. That's not exactly...
Is this illegal to own in the U.S.?
It probably is.
You think? You need to look that up, Andy.
Because it's not exact. It's like...
Don't get on some list, but...
It's almost like... I actually don't want to Google that. Can I...
DuckDuckGo it.
Can I get the Al-Qaeda training manual?
DuckDuckGo it. It's entirely private, but, definitely.
It's like I can almost see it because, like, there's especially in like Germany, that you do not want to have like Nazi memorabilia in Germany or anything like that. There's
I understand that.
Like, Nazi memorabilia is illegal to own or illegal to sell. And
I'm just curious because I looked it up and it is illegal, and he actually gets charged with that. But I'm just curious if that is illegal in the U.S. Probably under Donald Trump's U.S., it probably is.
It probably is.
Look that up. But we also know that the Lancashire police had several interactions with Axel between October of 2019 and May of 2022, including 4 911 calls from his home address. I think it's 999.
Yeah, 999 there.
But you know what I'm saying. For,
Emergency services.
Exactly. The first call came from his parents. It was on November 2021. Apparently, Axel became so disruptive they couldn't handle him when a stranger had come to their door. Not a lot of details on that. I don't know what his deal was. I don't know if this was someone he knew or someone that he was afraid of or wanted to attack. I don't understand this whole situation, but apparently his parents had to call 911 on him. So I don't know.
At least the fact that his parents, because there's so many times we can look at these cases and feel like so many parents kind of neglect the signs. They don't want to ever acknowledge that there's anything could be wrong. But it's like his parents do a few times, kind of like they take him to the doctor. They call 911 on him. They tried. They tried to just contain him. And that was the problem, really, I think.
Right.
They tried to just kind of be like,
but what else can you do?
Nope.
You don't want to believe your son is truly capable of that. So you...
I know, but like it says, when it becomes the fascination and the obsession and the like, he is openly making threats about violence, like wanting to do this.
You have to see how unhappy your son is. You have to see that at some point in time.
And there has to be, it has to be talked to. Like you need to bring that to a real mental health professional to be like, this is what my son is saying. This is what he's doing at home. What should we do?
Right.
And that's one of those things like, a doctor's going to tell you, we need to have them looked at immediately.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were just afraid of him, or like I said, a lot of his earlier offenses weren't so serious that the authorities really had time, probably. Like here's the second call. They called again just a few weeks later, and Axel had kicked his father and apparently damaged his car somehow.
Okay.
And so they called on him for that. Then in March of 2022, his mom called to report Axel missing. And officers later found him on a bus after the driver had called 999 because he was refusing to pay his bus tab.
Yeah, I love
He has a habit of doing that, dude. He hates paying for fucking taxis and buses. No, man, that's a hill he will die on. He will not pay for that shit.
No, and plus, he's got no money. He's got no job or anything like that. But I do love how this, English bus driver was just like, nope, door's locked.
Yep.
Like, how are you doing?
Yep.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I know I always have the New York accent, but yeah.
What are you going to do?
Just lock the door on him and just be like, all right.
You know where I'm from, buddy? I'm from New York.
I guess you're taking it to the end of the line, bitch.
It's in the U.S. of fucking A, huh? Huh? Shut the fuck up and sit down. Cops is coming. They don't got guns, but, they're coming. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do.
I'm going to take you out back and beat the hell out of
you. But yeah, so officers obviously easily apprehended him on the bus, and he told them that he was carrying a knife and that he wanted to stab someone. He's quite honest.
I'm really surprised.
Brutally honest.
I'm really surprised that if, when he does have he does have a weapon on him, I'm really surprised he never tried to stab that bus driver.
Listen, he had a good reason. He said he wanted to get in trouble so the police would delete his TikTok account, which contained embarrassing videos that he didn't know how to take down.
But what? Wow. That's I do hate to say it. Okay, Gen Z, that one's on you. Yep. You know what? That's a failure on your generation right there.
Okay, so you can study and learn Al-Qaeda techniques, but you can't take down some TikTok videos?
Yeah, you don't know how to, can't figure out how to deactivate your account.
You're trying to make ricin in your room, but you can't deactivate some TikTok videos?
You're trying to do expert level chemistry to make, mass casualty induced poison.
Right.
But you can't figure out how to deactivate a TikTok account?
No, I'm not.
He's like, I didn't read the terms and conditions.
It's a weird situation. So police searched him that day and found a small kitchen knife, but at the time they didn't even charge him with carrying a weapon.
Which I guess, again, that's a bit ridiculous. I know he's still a minor, but at the same time, there should have been something.
I mean, he's carrying a weapon, and he said he was, and he said he wanted to stab somebody.
Yeah, he's telling you, he's like, this is the weapon. It's like, I want to stab somebody with this. And the cops are like,
I'm sorry, son, what was that?
The cops are just being like,
all right,
get me that.
Turn around, please.
You shouldn't be out here with this. Just puts in his belt.
I'm going to hurt some with that lad. But finally, in May of 2022, his father called the police again to say that they were struggling to cope with their son after they had grounded him from the computer.
He's causing
Yikes.
some chaos in that house at this point.
He is, dude. He is. I think they are, like I said, I think the parents are a little bit afraid of him at this time.
They are.
really
He's
are.
like I said, he's becoming outwardly unstable at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Now, here is something, a little something that they tried to do to help. Each time the police were called, they contacted a organization called MASH, which is a local group that is tasked with overseeing and helping vulnerable people in the area.
Kind of like children in need.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Remember that kid from your training video? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him.
Yeah, that's good. Remember that? But they carried out an initial assessment on Axel, which found social services intervention was not required. Not a big enough threat, man. Not required.
I would still say highly recommended.
But listen, but they did offer guidance and like classes and appointments and whatnot, which he and his parents did take them up on. But after February of 2023, he stopped engaging with them altogether.
He just, like I said, he is now becoming outwardly unstable.
Yes.
Like he is very much, his personality has become he's obsessed with being dark and kind of scary, and he's making his parents very much afraid of him now.
Exactly. And so over the course of the next year and a half, he continues to stew. He continues to become more radicalized. There are more issues in schools and with his parents and whatnot. And then finally, on the day of July 13th, 2024, Axel purchased an 8-inch kitchen knife from Amazon, which he was actually not old enough to accept the delivery of. So one of his parents had to accept the delivery. It's actually a felony, if I'm not
We looked it up.
correct. It's
it was
actually a felony for the delivery driver to deliver a knife to a minor.
They get it's one of those things like I think it was like as of like 2022. Yeah, it's a felony. I don't know if it's a felony or it's still a crime to deliver a knife to a minor, because it is a bladed weapon that is like tracked and has to be signed for by an adult and like scanned
crazy.
in. And you know how Amazon packages are? They scan that shit. They have this
Right.
little key thing or little like Walmart scanners or whatever. There's like beep beep. There you
Yeah.
go. Here's your package.
Yep.
So it's like they need to know who is signing for this, because in the UK, a knife is illegal. You can't have knives and shit like that, like we do here.
Right.
And kitchen knives are even this tightly regulated.
Yep.
Like you can't order a kitchen knife off Amazon and have it just delivered to your doorstep.
Yep.
Like as soon as it comes into the UK, they know exactly where that blade is and they've stamped it. And it's like, we know where this is going. Like
That's crazy.
so.
Yeah, that's crazy. They take knives serious over there.
So
But,
you have to wonder,
that's
like,
their
why,
main
if his
source of
parents.
violence.
This was one of the questions we had before the show too. It's like if one of his parents had to sign for this knife,
Yeah.
and this package said like the law says this package has to state that it is a knife on the package, and the driver knows this is a knife and it's being signed for. Like, why did his parents not immediately just like send that back, throw that away? Immediately start hiding the knives in the house, because now your son, like somebody bought a knife and it wasn't either one of you.
Right.
Like if you ask your son, did you buy a knife? And he says, yeah. It's like, why?
Yeah,
Any kind of reason?
why?
Yeah. Why'd you buy a knife?
Just one
Now
knife,
look, I don't see you
just-
taking up cooking in here.
Right.
Where's the rest of
Right.
the set? You only bought one butcher knife.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's pretty sus, man. But he could have signed for it, and used his dad's ID, or I don't know. I don't know what the process is like. I don't know if a license has to be scanned or or what.
Anything,
Or
but
just write-
somehow that knife was signed for and delivered at that house, and he maintained possession of it.
He did for almost 2 weeks until July 29th, 2024, when Axel ordered a taxi using a fabricated name of Simon. He was picked up at 11:10 a.m., and at the time he was wearing a green hoodie and a surgical mask, and the hood was up on his hoodie. The taxi dropped Axel off on Hart Street in Southport at 11:40 a.m. And at the time, Axel asked the driver to point him to 34A Hart Street. And then he proceeded to walk away without paying. There's a video of this on YouTube and all over the place, really. And it's really interesting, because as soon as the driver pulls up to the place, he's like, "Cash or card, mate?" And he's like, and you hear Axel say, "Can you point me to 34A Hart Street?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's right there. Cash or card, mate?" And then he just kind of sits there for a second, and then he just looks at him, and he just gets out of the car and just walks away. And he's like, "Hey, cash a card.
Dude,
You know,
like I
he
said,
just-
the wrong cab driver was following you and just dragging you back to that car. I'm gonna shake money out of you somehow.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like I said, the wrong cab driver. You get some old, like some old cabbie in England or something like that. They're fucking knocking your teeth in, mate.
Right. Yeah.
It's not cash or card. It's cash or blood, mate. Like I'm fucking
right.
taking fucking teeth.
Yeah. Well, he got away with it this time because he jumped out and then ran right across the street into the property at 34A, which was the address to a community studio called the Heart Space, a commercial building that hosted events usually related to yoga, dance, kids, that type of thing, parties, whatnot. On this particular day, July 29th, a Taylor Swift theme workshop had started at 9:30 a.m., and 26 children between the ages of 6 and 14 were in the studio that day.
I wondered what it meant by like a Taylor Swift workshop until I did look it up. Apparently they were learning some dances to Taylor Swift music. They were all like making like doing like crafts and stuff together because like I said, there was like 6 to 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Apparently the Swifties make friendship bracelets and stuff.
Of course.
So this was like, you have to imagine. And I hate to say this in the way, this is literally one of like the most innocent events for something this dark to go down at.
No, it is. It
Like
is. I don't mean to laugh.
we get so jaded in America
Yeah,
by all
it
the
really
school
is.
shootings and mass shootings that like this is something so just innocent and good and happy, and then this person goes and does the most dark thing you could think
I think
of.
that's his point. That's his
Yeah.
absolute point. Because Axel entered through the front door of the building and walked up a flight of stairs to get to the studio. And once there, he wasted no time. He moved quickly through the room, stabbing whoever he could get his hands on. Some of the girls tried to run. He pulled them back into the room. He seemed to be stabbing people at random. One of the organizers of the workshop, her name was Leanne Lucas. She was stabbed in the back 5 times while she was trying to get some kids out of the studio. And she was also able to call emergency services.
Yeah, apparently this was one of those things where like a bunch of the parents weren't there.
No.
They had dropped their kids off. So there's like, maybe like 3, 4 instructors who are kind of putting this thing on.
I think there was 2, honestly. There was
there's-
Leanne Lucas, and then there was another woman who was the dance instructor. She was there as well.
So yeah, there's not a bunch of parents there. There's no, because like you said, if there's a bunch of parents there, I don't think this is happening.
I don't
To be
think so
perfectly
either.
honest, if the parents are there, even if there's just a bunch of moms in that room, yeah, fuck off, mate. You're getting a steel chair to the head like Chris
Right.
Benoit. You're not-
Seriously, something. Somebody's going to make a stand here.
But yeah, so like I said, there's not. The room is full of children and 2 adults.
And there was a security guard who was working in the building. He was not there for the studio, but he was there for the building. His name was Jonathan. When he saw the attack was going on, he attempted to escape and call 911. But Axel actually saw him and followed him into his office, attacking him and stabbing him in the leg.
Yeah, I can see how that guy right there gets a lot of flack as well, right there too.
Yeah, I
That's like
bet.
if you're the security guard on there,
That's tough,
and it's a
man.
room full of
'Cause look,
children.
For Axel to have seen you, that means you went up those stairs to see what the hell was going on.
Yeah,
And when you saw him, and then you ran.
so it's like
Man.
it's the thing. It's like I'm sure a lot of flack gets thrown towards that security
That's
guard
tough.
because it's. I know he's probably not armed. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't
Yeah.
have a weapon or anything.
I don't know if that's how it went down. I don't want to put no shade on him because I don't know how it went down. But everybody reacts differently. Who knows? But it's just I mean, you're paid to protect the people in the building. That's the whole reason you're there.
Yeah,
I
or at
mean,
least maybe not protect, but at
But I
least
mean, these
you
are
know.
children, man. Like I don't know.
I
It's just
know.
if I was the only adult in the room, I'd be like, well, I guess I'm fighting this dude with a knife, man.
Yeah.
I'm the only fucking dude here.
Yeah, and I know we both
Like,
say
you
that
have to
as
do it.
fathers of children as well, but it's like you have to hope, I guess, that just like any adult sees small children in danger.
No, not every adult's going to react the same way.
I know.
They're not putting themselves in that situation. And, like I said, you never know how you're going to react till the time comes. But finally, at 11:57 a.m., the police arrived on the scene and confronted Axel as he was holding a knife and standing over a victim's body. The police ordered him to drop the knife, and Axel was arrested without incident.
Did they say how long? Do you remember how long he was in that room for? It was like 17 minutes.
It's about 17 minutes, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
just going by the timeline, it was about 17 minutes.
So yeah, he is in a room for 17 minutes before the police get there. That's a pretty
That is a
long
long
response
time.
time. And again, when the police show up, he gives up immediately. pretty much
Well,
with no contest, no no fight.
So that lets you know right there he's not completely insane. He doesn't want to die. 'Cause
Yeah,
if
he's
you
not-
wanted, why not charge the police if you wanted to die?
Yeah, he's not looking to get killed by the police.
No,
So
no, he's not. He's gonna have a rough go of it in prison, boy.
oh, he is not going to have fun in prison.
No. But let's go back. Let's go back over the wake of this crime here. 2 girls were pronounced dead at the scene. 6-year-old Bab King and 7-year-old Elsie Stanham. And on the next day at 1:20 a.m., a 9-year-old girl named Alice passed away at the local hospital due to her injuries.
Just to think, I know this as Americans, we look at we've become jaded by so many mass casualty events.
Yeah.
To think that only 2 people died is still
3.
3, yes.
3 girls died.
Yes, 3 girls died. 1 passed away at the hospital the following day from injuries. But to think that how much damage could have been done, and the fact that the majority survived. Yes, they were all injured. They were all most of them were stabbed.
Right.
But it could have been so much worse in that 17-minute span. And I don't want to say anybody got off lucky, but like I said, the numbers of just that sheer brutality. Yeah, they are lucky that he only was able to actually kill 3 of them.
Yeah. 8 other children, as well as 2 adults, were injured in the attack. Axel was arrested and charged with 3 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, and possession of a bladed article. And then later, he was charged with a possession of ricin and an Al-Qaeda training manual, like we mentioned earlier. And on January 20th, 2025, Axel pled guilty to all 16 charges against him. And 3 days later, just 3 days later, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 52 years. Not a very good possibility, though.
No, I don't think there's a good possibility of that one.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. Nor does he deserve it. He has shown no remorse for his crimes. The only reason he wasn't given life or a much, much longer sentence is because he was under 18. It's a technicality.
He was 9 days before his 18th
9
birthday.
days, yes.
Like he calculated this. He knew he had to do this before he was 18.
Yep.
Or it would be a completely different outcome of the crime.
Exactly. He knew, man.
And like I said, it's so crazy that this thing can happen, and to think this happened so recently over there. I can't imagine that somebody could go through all of the different, I guess checkpoints that he went through, and nobody was able to see enough of a red flag to be like,
Right.
we've got to put this kid in some sort of care, either
Got to,
full
man.
time or he's got to be here, come to an office once, twice, 3 times a week. He needs full time mental health care. And like I said, this wasn't a long time ago. This was last year.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that this could have been prevented.
Well-
but yet,
well,
he seemed like he slipped through the cracks.
He could have slipped through the cracks, or he could have played the part for just long enough. So we kind of lose track of him in most of the articles, most of the timelines of his childhood or his late teen years around February of 2023 when he stopped attending all that help and all that stuff, right? And then you don't hear nothing until the attack almost a year and a half later.
Yeah.
July of 2024.
Like I said, I feel like during that time, his parents were kind of getting really scared, and they were just trying to contain it.
Or the opposite, Andy. Even
Maybe,
worse,
yeah.
they were getting comfortable because they're like, look, a year and a half, he hasn't done anything crazy. Maybe he's just going through a phase. Maybe he's coming through it. And then all of a sudden.
Yeah, maybe.
Now there was an incident a few months before this one where Axel actually tried to get a cab dressed in a hoodie, hood pulled up with his mask on, and he was trying to go to his old high school right around the time they were letting out of class.
Yep.
And his father actually stopped the taxi driver from taking him. He begged and pleaded and was like, do not, please. His father was also a taxi driver, by the way.
He's like, do not come back here. Do not pick him up for anything. If he tries to get a ride, don't take him anywhere.
So that has to let you know, Andy, that leads a lot more to what you're saying is they were afraid. They knew. There's no reason for you to be that over the top about your son going, because you knew what the hell he was going to do.
Yeah, like I said, that
Full face coverage. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Hood up. He's got his hands in his hoodie pocket. Who
Yep.
knows what the fuck he's got in there.
Yep.
He probably had the knife already
Yeah.
because he got the knife 2 weeks before You know what I'm saying? So who knows?
I'm like I said, I feel pure speculation. It just feels like maybe his parents were trying to contain, like just keep the lid on it. Hopefully it would go away. They could figure out how to control and navigate it.
Yeah.
And it just did not work out in the long run. Like I said, there were so many options and chances where this could have been prevented. And it's really sad that like I said, this kid fell through the cracks because he wasn't serious enough for them to take his threats.
Right.
But he wasn't like I said, he wasn't in need enough for enough assistance to really analyze him to find out that he was serious.
He wasn't putting himself in danger.
No,
you
not
know,
either.
It's crazy, but if like he was suicidal, he would have got more attention, ironically, than being
Probably would have.
homicidal.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like I said,
it's crazy.
If like any of those programs that could have seen children in need, if he would have just had any sort of more intervention, they would have probably picked up on these things. But like I said, the ways that could have been prevented are just there. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Couldn't even prevent it.
No, they could not.
They could not. That's a shame. Yeah, this is a dark case, guys. This was, like I said, this was a suggestion, and we are doing case suggestions right now. You better send us some. I'm looking for ideas. Now is a great time. You can hit us up on Instagram, and Thina will be sure to send them my way. That's where I got this suggestion and last week's. So you guys keep them coming. Those brutal cases, we love those.
Right? Yes. Thank you. Get to wash my brain out. I wish I had like a towel sometimes.
We gotta,
like, I could just Looney Tunes through my head,
there
just
you
clean
go.
it out. Just be like, yep, just clean that right
just
out.
wash that right out of there.
Whoop, throw it in the trash.
But no, we'll freshen up, man, and we'll be back next week with a lighter case, a more fun one, I guess.
Hopefully, yeah.
In true crime regards,
Maybe less gold star.
Fun is it's a very loose term in true crime.
Can we find a heist, please? Like a good one.
But you know what is fun? Oh my Gaia.
That is fun. It smells so good.
It does. It smells so good. It makes life fun. You can relax because you smell great if you're wearing Oh My Gaia.
Yes, you can.
Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. And there's tons of scents for you guys, like vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber, all kinds, guys. Barbershop, and of course, there's True Crime Pine, right, Andy?
Oh, it's the best one to go for your first time.
True Crime Pine,
Please.
guys. And you can find True Crime Pine at ohmygaia.com. That's ohmygaia.com. And you can also find deals and specials at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram. But I got a special for you right here, True Crime Guys listener. You can use the code word Crimepine for 15% off your order. That's Crimepine, Crimepine, no spaces. Don't you dare put a space in there, or it will not work. Crimepine. The code word and the link to Oh My Gaia is right below the description of this episode, as well as everything else True Crime Guys, like Patreon, patreon.com/truecrimeguys, where for just $3 a month, you guys can get access to these episodes early, ad-free, best part, and with, some bonus content. Me and Andy like to shoot the shit before we get in here and get down to business on these cases. You got to get warmed up.
Yeah, right.
So we get to just sit and talk as friends, and we put that extra conversation at the end of every regular weekly episode on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Well, all right, guys, make sure you give us a follow on social media at True Crime Guys. You can send case suggestions there or truecrimeguys@gmail.com. All right? Everything else, truecrimeguys.com, and don't forget to check out Oh My Gaia. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Andy, you got anything?
I think you nailed it, Michael.
All right, guys. Well, then just keep on creeping, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.